Way too much.
Well, we're out here in God's country, as you would say.
Mm-hmm.
This is a beautiful environment. I like that we're getting different environments out for the podcast. You couldn't come out to Coronado, but that gives a new opportunity to see different environments.
Yeah, sketchy
And-
neighborhood.
Yeah,
Coronado.
super.
Yeah.
Why do they call it God's country?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Uncorrupted.
We are touched like what on the mountains, right towards the mountains in East County, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah, that is nice.
We're here with the one and only Brendan Chief Johnston. I mean, I think the first question we got to ask is, where did the nickname Chief come from? Because that is stuck, and a lot of people know you by Chief. So
Yeah.
where'd it come from?
I think when I first started teaching and coaching at Saints, it's something I would call the kids.
Chief.
Oh,
Big
yeah.
guy,
What's up, Chief?
Yeah, big
Yeah.
guy, Chief, big fella. And then like they kind of flipped it on me pretty quickly.
Okay.
That's kind of cool though.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
the nickname got flipped and put onto
Yeah.
you.
And then it stuck.
Mhm.
Like everybody, like people I've never even like, I don't know, some people like that I don't see in like the school environment. Like I'll see them like at club or something, and they're calling me Chief. And
Awesome.
I figured there's worse thing the kids call me.
Yeah.
I'll take Chief.
There we go.
So, yeah.
Let's talk about your player background. Like, how did you get in love with this game?
I played. Always loved playing soccer. Growing up, I was pretty much like a one sport guy, just because like what our parents could like get us to and all that stuff. So soccer, I think, is one of the easiest sports to just play, to pick up a ball and play. So I grew up playing. The competitive scene was not as robust as it is now. So I grew up playing like AYSO until high school.
There we go.
And then I played for USA, which was a club out here. They ended up joining up with Hotspurs at one point, and then Hotspurs ended up joining up I think Sporting. But yeah, so that's where I played growing up. The level of soccer to get to watch, I was like a big soccer fan. That was like the highest level locally to
Okay.
watch. So I grew up going to soccer games.
There we go.
The indoor games, like banging on the glass, doing all that. And yeah, there wasn't the same, in terms of watching, there wasn't the access we have now. The Premiership games, like all the time, it was like I'd have to watch like Telemundo on a Sunday.
to catch one game.
Like click
Yeah.
the channel and watch that on a Sunday.
There we go.
That's how you know you loved it though, because you went the
100%.
mile to go and see that game
100%.
on Telemundo.
Yep.
You didn't even understand the language they were talking
No,
about.
I turned the volume down and watch the game.
Be your own commentator at that point.
Yeah, totally.
The soccer's is what's that arena that the goals play at, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
indoor.
Is that what they're in?
They played Sports Arena, and they were like high level players that played, like at the time.
And Hugo Sanchez was on another team that played against the Sockers,
Yeah,
right?
well, and they had an outdoor league
Oh.
too, NASL.
Okay.
So I got to see. I went to a game at Jack Murphy one year. They played like the Rowdies or something like that was the team.
The Rowdies.
Yeah, but there were a bunch of like that was like the place to play.
Yeah.
Like that was the
In
level.
San Diego.
And even nationally,
Oh wow.
there wasn't like a whole.
See what I'm saying?
You know,
They
it was-
go
it was-
50 years back, and there was no
Yeah.
structure to this thing.
Yeah, like the first. I think John Harks might have been the first. That was like in '90. He might have been like the first U.S. player to go play like in England.
Wow.
He played for.
Damn.
He played for like Sheffield Wednesday. But that was it.
That's
And that was in
amazing.
'90, so that was like just like relatively speaking, that was 8th grade for me.
Yeah.
And then you look up at like the soccer you guys have been able to grow up watching and all that. It's just way different.
That
Oh,
is
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Where did your soccer career take you? Like as far as like in a playing career?
So played here, club, played at Saints, and then went to Marquette and tried out as a walk-on.
There we go.
And walk-on's a tough way to go. There were like
Yeah.
25 of us, and then it was down to like 2 of us, and then the other guy made it my freshman year, and then he ended up getting cut the next year. Walk-on's a tough way to go, but I was glad that I like went for it, and I felt like I could play out there. I didn't feel like I was like a dude, but I felt like I could play out there.
Did you make that cut the first time around?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
were
yeah,
on? Yeah, that's
yeah.
amazing.
So I didn't make the squad, but like they had, it was like a week-long deal.
Yeah.
So I had to go out to, I went to Marquette, so I went out to Milwaukee and was in the dorms, like literally like all by myself, and like got off the plane from like San Diego and had to figure it out.
Wow.
But it was a good process. I'd like to think I was pretty self-aware, so I wasn't like, oh, the coach screwed me over. Do you know what I mean? Or,
Yeah.
or something like that. I just felt like there's a lot of good players, and walk-on's a tough way to go. And then maybe if I made it, maybe I would have been in the same situation as the guy that lived in my dorm and made it, and just been on 1 year, and then, But I'm glad I went for it, and was also like kind of realistic and had some self-awareness.
Yeah.
In those situations, it's good to look in the mirror instead of like
Yeah.
pointing at the.
Oh yeah, because you know how much of that we deal with now, like as a coach.
I was gonna
you
say,
didn't
like-
select somebody because you don't like them or you favor, But and then the cool thing was too, I went to the coach and talked to him after tryouts, and he hooked me up with this like Serbian team to go play with.
No way.
So my buddy and I, who had also tried out, we ended up being like the only two non-Serbs on a Serbian team out. No, it was bad. It was awesome.
That's
And just like culturally, that was like an incredible experience, because Milwaukee's much different than San Diego in that regard. You can go through parts of town. San Diego, it's like, you might have your Hispanic part of town or something like that.
East County part of town.
Yeah, exactly.
In
No,
Mira
no.
Mesa, we have our own
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, exactly.
thing going on. It's
But Milwaukee's like Italian, German, Bavarian, Serbian, Croatian.
heavy overseas influence
Yeah,
people
yeah.
there.
And my freshman
Congregation of people.
year, we played the Croatian team, and that was in the middle of the whole conflict, the Civil
Oh,
War.
no way.
Crazy.
Wow.
And so my buddy was Hispanic. I'm Irish American.
Yeah.
And there's like cops at the game. The sidelines were lined. It was this crazy, intense atmosphere.
That's
Jeez.
soccer breaking barriers
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
right?
So just like culturally speaking, like that's where, like going to try out, trying to make the team, didn't work out, but then got kind of put in that direction, and that was like an incredible experience. We played at the community center at the games. The older like families would like serve us dinner after the game.
Awesome.
They had a big picture of Vlade Divac in the locker room from the Lakers back in the day with the team. Like
So-
it was awesome. Man.
I
It
think
was awesome.
that's in our last podcast we had the chance to talk to a player who was saying whenever you can get different experiences
Mm-hmm.
with overseas players, coaches, you take the swing at it. In today's market, players are like stuck in the club realm
Yeah.
and never think to look outside of it.
Yeah.
But even back then, an experience like that really
Yeah.
expands your playing career and then your ability to
Yep.
think about the game too, because those experiences they just add on.
Yeah,
right?
that's what it was for me, for experience. I wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
a top flight player, but I was a top flight, passion for the game. So you just keep going and play. And one of the crazy things, I remember the first game we played, this guy named Reza picked up me and my buddy, and we were going to the game. He picked us up on campus, and there was like shoved underneath this seat was this picture of the Milwaukee Wave. That was the indoor team. And I was like crunched under the seat, and I looked at him like, oh, you played for the Wave. And like he played for him. And then the picture was this guy named Brad Bond, who lives right out here that I grew up playing and coaching with.
Jeez.
And that was crazy that I was in Milwaukee, another part of the country, and stuffed underneath the chair was the team picture of a guy that do you know what I'm saying?
The
So I
small
grew up around
football
San Diego.
world.
It was crazy.
Small
And he had
football
the,
world.
mullet and like all this stuff. And I'm like, hey, do you know Brad? He's like, oh yeah, that guy was great, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, he lives right in my neighborhood.
And I
He's-
find
he's the coach of a Hall.
I
No
find
way.
it really
Oh,
important.
so that's the guy
Yeah.
that Menace
Yeah, I was
talks
trying to
about.
get it.
Okay,
Yeah.
got you.
So, but just crazy.
yeah, yeah.
He coached my brother growing up. Like, I played
Jeez.
indoor with him, and the fact that was stuffed underneath the chair.
Yeah,
like,
we
across
talk
the
about
country.
reputation as a coach. This is why it's important, because it's a small football world.
Yeah.
People know people. And even if your people doesn't know the people, there's probably someone in between those two that knows both.
Oh yeah.
And you said something really interesting just now. It's like maybe your level of football wasn't great, but your passion was there.
Right.
And that's what propelled you through your playing
Yep.
career and
Yep.
or coaching, whatever it may be. And I think that itself is something important that people can hear. To know, like, well, maybe if my game is low, but my passion is high, this is enough to continue to follow your journey and play.
Be involved in the game.
You'll find yourself in,
Yeah.
in random situations where
Yeah.
you'll learn different things that you would have never
Yeah.
thought you would be in.
Yep. And then even as a coach now, and even with my own kids playing soccer, I'm not telling them stories about me as a player. Do you know what I'm saying?
You're
I'm
not living
going-
through them,
No,
yeah.
I'm just talking
Their
about
game.
like what the game what the game has like provided for me, the experiences it's provided. It's not like, I don't get up in front of my guys and go like, oh, well, back when I was playing, like I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can
absolutely.
just tell them how, you know, if I were to talk to them about that, which I don't, I would just tell them how hard I worked and how much I love playing.
I think
It's
in
not,
my first few
you know.
years of coaching, right after college soccer, I would use when I played, when I did, when I
Yeah.
was in this situation. And I started to realize, well, none
you
of
don't
them.
do that now?
I don't. But I'm 10 years in now, and now I've realized that 90% of them are not like me and are not me. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, and I don't need to tell them, this is how I would. I need to say, show me what you would. And give them the space to go and show me what they would do. And then we could work from there. Constructive criticism, praises, the hammer, whatever it might be needed in this situation based on what they chose to do in the actions, right? But I give them that freedom now instead of saying, hey, this is how I would do it like that. But I loved how I did it because I did it well. It's just my way, not theirs. And so I give them that.
Well, how about like your transition into coaching? Like how did that look? Being a player, being very passionate about the game. What made you take that next step?
So another San Diego connection in Milwaukee. My high school coach at Saints, Jim Duffy. I think he grew up or his mom lived in Cleveland, but he ended up, he was in Milwaukee before I got there, coaching at New Berlin Eisenhower High School. So that was like 20 minutes from Marquette. So he had reached out. I had kept in touch with him. He had reached out to see if I wanted to coach the freshman team while I was still in college, younger than you are. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like 20, and they hired me to coach their freshman team. So, and I had a ton of autonomy and really enjoyed it, you know. And then I also had Thompson Usian, who just passed away a couple of years ago. Played for the Soccer's Nigerian national team. A lot of people, I guess my age, would know of him. But he's a guy, I worked his summer camps with him. He coached at Saints also, coached my younger brother. Their first CIF title in '96, he was the coach.
For Saints?
Yep.
Oh,
wow.
So I had that connection with him, and I also got to help him. I got to help him run his camps, and that was really cool because I grew up watching him play. And I told you, the Soccers were like the thing, so I grew up watching him and idolizing him.
Okay.
So then now I'm coaching with Thompson Usian.
Yeah.
Who scored, you know, tons of goals for the national team and
for Ghana
Nigeria.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And even then, following in his footsteps in a bit, like coaching Saints and winning championships in a sense.
So just having, you know, coaches that maybe reach out because maybe they see something like, hey, it'd be a good guy to get him into. That's all it was two coaches I played for and knew that just reached out.
It's a real full circle stuff there.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool.
And now I've heard it's interesting from a lot of the people. I've only been in San Diego 3 years, but I'm so like soccer oriented that I get interconnected to the city's football people relatively quickly. And what I've learned is a lot of the people running football here 10, 15 years ago were playing together or in the same clubs or grew up. A lot of the people running football in the city know of each other from the football's past.
Yep.
Like we say, the soccer world is small. Well, the people doing it here know each other. They played. They were in soccer. So that I think I know of 3 or 4 coaches that played during that time.
Yep.
And all of them were like, oh, of course, we were teammates here. Oh, we played at UCSD there. Oh, we played at SDSU during this year. Oh, and he coached me during that year. And I'm like, I see. So it's important that you understand how people know each other and how they get along and who they get along with.
And in that sense, even looking at like not even your reputation as a coach, but reputation as a player too. Like your work ethic or whatever values that you have as a player. Not saying that you can't change from when you're a player to when you're a coach, but that sticks with you. And people remember you, or you got your first interactions with people because of who you were as a player.
Yeah.
And so that matters, not just as an adult, but who you are and who you're forming as a person.
100%.
I think it also shows the love the people have for the sport and the game in the city. Because 15, 20 years down the road, they're still doing it.
Yep.
And I idolize that because that's who I want to be. 20 years down the road from where we're sitting now, still doing it.
It's also why you don't burn bridges.
Yeah.
Because everything kind of,
Oh, yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like when
Absolutely.
you leave somewhere or you move on from a player or a club or everything, like you want to do everything because it all, you know what I mean?
I've learned it the hard way. In the first few changes, you burn a bridge, and then like we said before, it comes full circle, and you get cut
You're gonna
because
walk across that bridge later.
Yeah.
So you don't want to burn it down. on the
and
way
now
out.
I've like realized that each point when changes need to occur, there's reasons for it, but
Yeah.
there's no reason to go and then take the lighter to that bridge.
Yeah.
Because those people you're going to see again, and
Yeah.
those players you're going to see again,
Yeah.
and that club you'll probably work against or with
Yeah.
again. It's some tournament, in some situation, in some regard.
And that's how it was for me with like Renee, at Crusaders for 20 years.
Okay.
He coached me. I played for him. I remember like driving up to State Cup games with him, all that. And then I ended up working with him for 20 years.
Wow.
It's way better to be on good terms with people than like just to put them on the blacklist and
Yeah.
say, all right, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's a much more healthy way to go about. And then when you're on the field, it gives it an energy. It's a, hey, how you doing? How you know things? Tell me about your teams, your players. The other sense of that is if you burnt that bridge, you're walking right past them and not even eye contact is
Yeah.
being made, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
Because a whole wonderful football conversation could have taken place there, and maybe it was pride, and maybe it was a decision you made, but you didn't need to burn the bridge.
Yeah.
I like how you put that. Like, it's just a football conversation, and we all have these. We all have the same passion for this game that we love, and you never know what you can learn from X person, from Y person, based off of whatever experiences they've had. I was gonna ask you what, and I've asked this question to everyone that's been on the podcast. What would you tell your 10-year-old self, knowing all the information you know? And now, I mean, we asked a 20-year-old guy, but now it's good to ask someone of the older ages because you've experienced a lot more.
Are you saying as like a player?
That was
Then-
my question would be as player
Yeah.
to coach in both those
No,
regards.
so for me, like myself, honestly, I worked as like hard as I could as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Sometimes there's just, like I wasn't a top flight player. I worked hard. I loved it. I was like, I'd run our stairs in the backyard. I'd go down to Grossmont College when they had the racquetball courts there with the ball and like play against the wall for an hour, like by tons of invisible training.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff I'll tell, my players now. It's like you got to be doing invisible training.
Make
stuff
or
when
break,
nobody
yeah.
else is around. We'd went and bought nets at Soccer Man. That was the old school soccer store growing up. And we'd put them up on the goals at Grossmont College and get our games going. We'd go to Allen Field like on a Sunday afternoon and go play down at Allen Field, which was like the best field at the time there.
And even if you don't have folk around, you can put your
Yeah.
headphones in nowadays,
Yeah.
take a ball. For me, it was that
Yeah.
ball, headphones, and I would juggle the 100 yards and back and try to not
Yeah.
drop it once. And that led to other skills and dribbling and technique, but what it was invisible training.
Yeah.
I was spending time with the ball on my own, which developed confidence in my game, and that was reflected in when I played.
Yeah.
And it was like a feeding itself.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful experience.
Yep. And,
Go-
and that's why, so like my 10-year-old self, honestly, I'd tell my 10-year-old self, I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
'cause I
dude,
worked
that's
myself.
awesome.
You know what I'm
No,
saying?
yeah.
That's
like,
awesome.
I wouldn't like, that's what I would tell my.
But the lesson is there.
Yeah.
Is if you put your head down and you work hard at it, even when you're not as talented, if you're not as, and I've seen those guys that just have talent coming out their ears. You're playing on the same field as them and you go, man, I wish. But at the same time, you don't. So you got to have something else and bring it to the table.
Yep.
And that is one of the greatest things any player or coach could bring to the table
Yeah.
is hard work and a work mentality. Because shoot, you can accomplish anything with that.
Yeah,
As long as you stay with
wasn't,
it.
My parents weren't paying for all these private lessons. I wasn't going to work with some dude on something. It was just like I just like to play.
By yourself.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you bring that up because that is like one of your like key values as a coach, like to this day. And it's not like just because you're older now
Yep.
doesn't mean that you still don't put in that work. And that's something that I respect from you a lot because like let's say you're running with the boys and you could
Yeah.
keep up with them.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the hell? How is coach keeping up? How is chief keeping up with
Yeah.
us?
Yeah.
But like that's one thing that like it's not something that you just say, but something that's more powerful when it's in action. And I think that's how you get a lot of buy-in from the players because I mean you may not be the most tactically astute or whatever, but like you demand something from them and you also live that. So that like how are they going to tell you no, coach, I'm not going to do that when you're the one doing it yourself. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you still play any, Chief?
No, I used to play men's league and all that, but just
When you played, what position was your favorite or the one you played most?
either center mid or out wide.
Yeah, okay. Out wide fullback, out wide winger.
Winger.
Let's go.
Yeah, there we
Me
go.
and you
Big
both,
man.
man.
Yeah.
Me and you both.
How about going into the coaching now? Like you picked up Saints. When was your first year that you coached Saints?
Like 2001,
Jeez.
assistant, and then
As a varsity assistant.
yeah,
And then when did you become the varsity coach?
2003.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So you've been in that program for at least 20, 21 years now.
Yeah.
Where did you guys start, like division wise?
We were Division 3, and that was before they did the power rankings. It was all just based off enrollment.
Oh wow.
So we were, like 700 boys.
It was on size,
so we'd be
yeah.
in there with schools of like 1,400 because they're co-ed.
Okay.
So we'd be, Division 3 was like, it was like us, Uni, University City,
Coronado?
Point Loma, Coronado.
Yeah. Big team, big schools.
Yeah. So those were like the D3 schools.
And when did that change from like based off of enrollment to power ranking?
I want to say like 2000, like 15
Okay.
ish.
And then from that point, where did you guys stand in the divisions? Like, were you guys always top, or did you have to work your way?
I forget the first year we were probably D1.
Okay.
Yeah, the first year we were D1, and the whole reason for doing it all is because you want, it's like anything, you want all the best programs to want to play up.
Of course.
So they tried to like encourage people to do it, but then people, like if you're playing in a certain division and winning every year, some people would go like, oh yeah, we want to play up. And some people would be like, no, we want to.
Other people want to be the sandbag.
So we're gonna stay.
Yeah, they love the sandbag method.
So now, I like the way it's set up with Division 1 especially because everyone, 20 teams in Division 1, and then top 8 are open. So Division 1's really 2 divisions. And then, if you think you're a top 8 team, then schedule a top 8 schedule, and then get top 8 results. And then you're a top 8 team.
There we go.
So.
Because I was gonna ask, like, you guys being from Division 3, which was like a pseudo Division 3, not like really you guys being in the 3rd division, but just because of enrollment.
Yeah.
How did you grow this program from being maybe not as successful, only having 1 or 2 championships when it started, to now getting your 9th championship this past season and going back to back as the best team in San Diego?
I think the biggest thing, I think it's expectations, like expecting to win. I think it's how serious we take the high school season, how serious we take training, how serious we take every league game. My big, like, we've won league the last 6 years, and I think that's why.
Light flex.
What's that?
Light flex.
Well, no. My point is that if you're not playing every game to win and like prepare for the playoffs when you're playing knockout games, then you're not going to be ready. So for me, like winning league, like that many years in a row, that's why we're ready for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because we're not blowing off a game on a Wednesday at wherever. Do you know what I mean? Or just waiting until we play like Cathedral or whoever to get
Point
up.
Loma,
To get up for a game. Like, Like you have to be up for every game. And it's being consistent. It's not, letting guys take days off in training when they don't need them. So I think it's consistency, it's expectations from like the coaches, but then the players have the expectations. So you have guys that want to win, and then when you have guys around the next year that have won, do you know what I mean? They carry that over.
Of course.
Like this year, for example, we're graduating 8 out of our 11 starters. But I'm confident we're going to have a hangover effect next year on winning, because the guys are going to be like, no, this is what we do, we win. So that's going to carry value into next year, even though people might go, oh yeah, but that guy's gone and that guy's gone and that guy's. That's how it is every year. Those guys are always gone. But then how come you keep winning? Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's.
There's that compounding success that's going to lead to that. How do you say, the expectations being set.
The Real Madrid royalty type.
The bars at the top. We win.
We're there, so we always go there.
If you want to be Madrid, you want to be a Saints, you have to take it seriously from start one to the very last day, and as soon as it's over, set your sights for the next season.
Yeah, and we try. We have a lot of good players. That's why. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
But we also try to provide like a professional atmosphere in terms of like the support. We're like, and with the way soccer is now and how much everybody's playing, managing mileage, I think the players appreciate that. Making sure they get the right recovery, making sure we're being thoughtful and not just like putting them through the grinder.
I don't think many people think about the physical load
Right.
like you're talking about now.
Not worrying about like maybe how it's going to affect them a month after your season.
No, and you got, when
months.
did we start getting the GPS involved?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Smart
And
move.
then, and then we have our guys, like when I do a recovery day with the guys, they'll be in there looking at all their data.
I love this data.
Their mileage, they'll be looking at like their passes, they'll be looking at
The top sprint.
the top speed.
Yeah, top speed.
You know what I mean? Like they want to see that. And
You know, it was a weird data that the Barca players like when I was at the residency from that was step pressure and or imbalance. Whereas one foot had more pressure than the other, and it led to speed changes, it led to distance traveled, it led to so many things. But you think to yourself, well, that's such a small stat to think about, is how hard am I pushing my feet against the ground. But as soon as we got the stat sports in and we could see it, it was beneficial for them.
Yep.
They knew, okay, I'm heavy today. I got to be lighter
Yep.
on my toes, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, it's good, like hard data to reference, and you can use it for the guys. Like I remember, I think it was last year, I was talking with Patrick and Bill after training in the office, and Patrick had made a comment to Ian like a year before, or maybe earlier in that year, and he said, he made some sort of comment like, about, yeah, you're good and you're talented, but when you work like Santi did, okay, like then come talk to me. Then you'll be doing like what we want you to do. So he came in with the tracker data to show him that he had run like 7 miles in a game or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But he was like proud. Do you know what I'm saying?
Proof. Here's my
and
proof.
It just meant he was working box to box, and that was like the demand. So when you have that data as the reference, and even like players as a reference, like that's like pretty cool deal.
Oh no, 100%. And I think especially when, like, shout out Ian, when it's the top player doing that, that just means that everyone else like needs to be at that level.
Correct.
And that's like, that goes back to like what you do, like you're the top of the pyramid and you have the work ethic for yourself. That means everyone else has to fall in line.
Set
When
that
he's
expectation.
the top of the pyramid and setting that bar for everyone,
Right.
like he can demand that from his teammates. And I think there was only one game this season where like technique wise, he got upset at someone else because the other person wasn't performing, and he knows that he should perform.
Yep.
But after that game, it set the expectation of like, hey, like we just got to be on it.
Yep.
No matter if it's preseason, no matter if it's the worst team in league, like we just got to be on it.
Yep.
And like even when you guys tied one game in league that you should have won,
Yep.
you could see like the players like drop and be upset at themselves because they know they should do better.
Yep.
Now, on this topic, I think one of the most interesting things to me personally is that you said you started in like 01 as like an assistant and then took the head role around 03. It's now 24, so it's been 21 years since you took the head role, maybe 23 or 4 since you arrived there. What's it like being a part of a program for so long? I think there's so many people that maybe don't live that experience because they go from one to the next. They want to climb ladders. They want to move cities. They get a new life. They have a new spouse. All kinds of things that moves them from program to program. I think it would be wonderful to hear from your experience what it's like to be inside of one place for 20 plus years.
Yeah. Now the big thing, as you know, at Saints is it's an incredible community. Like coworkers, relationship with the students. Like I work with them in the classroom, and then the soccer field's like another classroom.
Yeah.
Like it is.
I do
It's
know.
just, and work with a lot of boys that are restless. So.
You just got out of that desk at high school.
Yeah, no,
Let's
so
hit
you-
the ground.
So you get to hear about, you're working with this kid that's like a pain in the ass in the class, but then you're having him on the field, and you get to see like some different attributes. But the
You're not thinking about one particular player, right?
lots of players. They have a lot of restless hearts.
Do you teach at the school too?
I do.
Okay.
I teach English and Latin there. So, but for me, the big thing is like, I'm in a place where I'm content, but not complacent. So like being content for me, that's like happiness, fulfillment. Complacent is like unplugging, getting a little snoozy.
Yeah.
And I have like zero of that in me. You know, like this year was awesome. It was great. Last year was awesome. Last year was great. But we're, you know, like already like looking forward to next year.
Your first
Yeah.
response was community, and like when I talk about football, it's the people that we come across and we work with and we're on the field with that make the difference from what we're doing and why
Yep.
we're doing it.
Yep.
And that's spot on when you say community, because if you're surrounded by good people,
Mhm.
you're gonna want to stay.
Yep.
And
As-
you're gonna be a good person too
Yep.
in response.
Like that's a good question that you bring up, because has Saints been the same in these 20 years, or would you say that because of social media coming up, there's different things that haven't been the same?
No, yeah, no, of course it's morphed. I mean, I still refer to, you know, students I had up to like a certain year kind of as like that was a little bit more of an old school era. But a lot of things change. You know, the stakes change like in college. You know, tuition changes. So with a change in tuition comes maybe more expectations, or maybe more feeling like that people want to be able to dictate to you how to do things with their kid.
Yeah.
It's changed, but you know, it is cliched, but it's changed but stayed the same. Of course, like eras, things change a little bit. There's more kids playing now, obviously. I think soccer-wise, I think the level is higher, but it's just because of the time they're putting in. It's like anything. The days of like, you know, just 2 days of training and all of that kind of goes away. I think the expectation is that the players are doing more, committing themselves more to the game and all of that. So it's changed, but a lot of the things stay.
Yeah,
stay
and
pretty
as a
similar.
teacher and a coach, you're probably quite the principled man. So you're making sure that even though things are changing around you, when you're in these settings and environments, it's maintaining, if not, the bar's going above. And you're raising that expectation with little steps, little decisions here and there.
And you have to, because, you know, with high school soccer, for some people, not all programs are run the same. So they might be like, oh, I'm going to play high school like for fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Like for me, when it's said like that, like I don't take that like
Me
the right way. Like the fun comes from the way you do it. The fun comes from your professional approach, and then the fun comes from the success and the winning. If we want to just have fun, I'd bring like a pogo stick and parachutes and stuff out to
So
training.
I want to reiterate
like,
this message.
And like throw some balloons out and some soccer balls and guys, maybe some hoses and slip and slides.
Yeah.
And then we'd have fun.
That,
you know?
like you just said, like that way that statement is said, like we're just out here for fun, frustrates me.
Yeah, I think it's a disservice.
There's
to
not
the
a lot of
kids
things
in
that
the game.
frustrate me,
Yeah.
but I personally have been fighting that battle on a couple fronts, and without outing anybody or anything, it really is that if you don't want to come out here and get better as a player and a person, I don't want you out here.
Yeah.
Because I care so much about what we're doing, and the second you come into my environment with that lack of care, it emulates, it comes off of you, and people can pick it up.
Yeah.
And if I'm not picking it up, but if I'm receiving it, you've pissed me off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah. And even the, you know, like everyone's gonna play, or if you're a senior, you're gonna have a certain role like that. I don't think that's good for the players. I think it has to be based on merit.
A lot of
Because-
programs are like that.
I
Like,
know,
oh,
yeah.
they're seniors,
Now, I
so
need
they
to
gotta
hear
play.
that because I am this way.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, my
Yeah.
seniors, I want to give them more chances of opportunity
May-
than maybe they deserved.
But,
and I do need to hear
chances
this.
for opportunity, that's different. Maybe they get some extended opportunity, but at the end of the day, it needs to be about like merit. What
Yeah.
you do with your opportunity. So, I think that's more how life is. So, generally speaking, we deal with like a lot of really good kids, really good young men. So that's a given, you know, to go like, oh, but so and so is a really good guy. Like we're all, you know, most of them are really good dudes.
Yeah.
But it comes down to who has the greatest impact in the game. You know, and
Yeah,
that's-
any
and-
business in
and
life,
that's
every
important.
college,
Self-awareness.
life is like this.
This guy plays more than me because he's better than me, but I want to keep working.
Where's your response? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what guides how we do things, and it's not fun to turn around and like look at the bench after a game and go like, man, we got X amount of guys that didn't get in, or this guy hasn't been in for X amount of games. Super aware of it, but at the same time,
High
you
standards
need
of
to have
the
you need
program.
to have your best players out there, and that's your job as a coach. Your job is not at this stage in the game 7v7 soccer, different thing, different deal. You're all playing half the game as long as you come to training and do everything. There comes a point where that's not how it works anymore. And that's once again life. And if any of them want to play college, if they haven't dealt with that before they get to college, then they're not going to be prepared for college.
And then it's a rude awakening, and things start to snowball on them. And I think it's a really important. I need to hear it in a sense because sometimes I look at situations, I give too much opportunity because of those situations.
Yep.
Other times I could be a little bit more cutthroat, but at the end of the day, it is about how you played and what happened with the decisions that you made.
Yep.
And that's how your job is going to judge you. That's how your grades are going to be judged by. That's how you're going to climb or fall down the ladder, in a sense. And what are we doing in high school if we're not preparing them for the future? Because there's a lot of things that, and you can hear it from students from every generation. Well, they didn't teach us that in high school. Or they didn't teach us that, and we missed that. Well, maybe someone did, or maybe someone didn't. Maybe you were tuned in, but now, or you weren't tuned in. But now I think as a coach, it's my responsibility somewhat to give them that lesson. And I reflect. I'm sitting here reflecting now, thinking, man, I do need to be a bit more cutthroat when it comes to merit, in a sense, because what are we doing if we're not preparing them for the future? Is a big deal.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you're helping your players with is they have to find what value they bring. And not everyone's value is in minutes. Like, it's just not. Honestly, we had
Spot on.
At the end of the year, when we brought up 4 guys, we had 28 players on the roster. So
only 15 realistically played in the game.
Correct. So you're going into a game going, hey, my goal is to get 24 guys, and okay, so now you're not trying to win, and now you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, like in the game or in life. But like, we also have guys like Nico Cariaga, a couple years ago graduated. Like, there's certain guys that like really the value they bring. A guy like Sam this year, like Velasquez, is sometimes it was in minutes, sometimes it wasn't, but it was always there in training.
Yeah, that's so important. That
like
it's there in training, day in and day out.
How do you balance like wanting more, like being like wanting a bigger role, but still bringing value every day? That's a tough. That's like big boy stuff.
Not getting your opportunities, but showing up on the bench, encouraging others, working hard, just staying locked in, and without having the lack of opportunity maybe in this moment, dwindle your mentality, or how you say, put you in a downslope. You're working less hard. You're not focused. You're not talking to teammates.
You don't get the opportunity.
And you get the snowball effect, not just of him, but from other people being
either way you go.
If he's doing that, then I mean, why don't I do that? Because I'm not playing either.
Yeah, well, and even like going all the way down. Like, I coach a 2013 girls team right now, and then an 07 team for club. But I always tell everybody, like, you come to training and work hard to help your teammates get better. It's not to help you. You're doing that for them, and then they do it for you, and now you all do it for each other.
Yeah.
So if you're not working your ass off in training, then you're not being a good teammate, and you're not helping your teammates get better. If you're at training like for yourself, then you're not looking at it right. You want to have an environment in a perfect world where you're at training to help your teammates get better, and it's something you all do for each other.
And your environment with its expectations, you could call them elite, pushes players when they have the downward slope happening to focus in and give more, because they want to climb and they want to stay a part of this elite environment and team. But it can have the opposite effect in lesser elite environments when you're trying to push that bar of expectation higher. And players then have the decision to make whether they're going to buy in or buy out. And this is where, like, it can be harder in less experienced / elite environments to get these players to start to learn to respond in that manner. Where you can almost do the opposite and destroy the team from cutting its legs out because you went too hard, too fast with those expectations. And like, I'm in the business of doing that now, is like slowly pushing the bar, and then as the people are being left behind, dragging them by their bootstraps, saying, here we go, this is what's now expected. I get that it was different before, but now that we're doing it this way, this is what I need from you.
Well, and not even that, that's what players want. That's like what young men want, young women want. They may enjoy something a little more loose, but they want people to hold them accountable. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
They want to be in an environment that they believe in. Like, I'm not, like, I don't try to sell, like, this is the environment you want. You want them to, like, believe in it the same way you do. Like I believe that this is the best environment to be in, even if you want a bigger role.
And you got to be serious with them if you want to accomplish that. Because those teenagers are usually, we're talking about teenagers in this situation, are going about life with not a joking mentality, but everything's a little bit like, okay, for me, I'm focused on me. Things could be
You're young.
pushed back.
You're young.
Not worried about the future. And then all of a sudden you have this coach come in and treat it seriously, like, hey, talk about your grades. Hey, let's talk about your family. Hey, let's talk about your growth. Let's talk about your college. And they go, oh, I've never thought about 2 years from now. They see you thinking about their future and they go, I should. And they do want that. They need somebody there
and
from.
That's what I tell. Like I tell all my students, players, high school boys, high school age girls, like, I'm gonna treat you the way I'd want somebody to treat my son or daughter. Like if my son's at a training session and he's late and the coach doesn't say anything, or he's, I don't know, out doing something he shouldn't be doing the night before and showing up not ready to play, I would be extremely disappointed with that coach if they didn't say something to him.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, character building. You missed a chance.
Same thing in class. If someone cheats on something, I'm going to talk to them the way I'd want somebody to talk to my son or daughter about it. Like, hey man, like, why are you doing that? That's disappointing. Do you understand what the consequences are? So like football's the same way.
And it's hard managing those elite environments too, because you said something about it's hard looking at the bench and seeing those guys and their faces after a game, even if you won sometimes.
Right. No, it is.
And they've worked hard all week.
It is. It's not
and
fun.
you see them, they're angry.
Yeah.
And you're both Liverpool men, so I'm thinking about what Klopp said very recently.
Yeah.
There's 11 guys that are elated with me. There's 7 that are pissed. There's
Yep.
another 10 that are livid because they're not even in the stands.
Yeah.
And then you said something interesting with your high school. There's numbers like 15 to 22, 24, and you got to compete to be top 11 and maybe even top 15 to be the 4 subs that come in.
Yeah.
And I don't think that players understand that at the next level, that's a norm.
Yeah.
Whereas I arrived to my college team and there were 33 players.
Yeah.
I'm 18. The average age was 24, so I'm young.
Yeah.
And I worked to be in the top 18 because only 18 travel. So that not only was I playing in home games and I didn't redshirt, I have a jersey and a kit, but when the team was traveling and 18 people got to get on the bus and 18 people stayed home, I had this incentive, this passion, this drive that I'm going to be one of those 18 on the bus. And I don't care if I'm 18 years old and he's 26. I'm on the bus.
Yeah.
And I had 2 roommates at the time, and unfortunately one of them wasn't able to travel while the other one was. So it was hard because I was younger.
That's brutal.
And the 2 of us would go and he would have to stay.
Alone.
Yeah.
But here we have a situation where this player could respond and get passionate about it and say, I'm going to work my way in.
Yep.
And he did.
Yep.
So those responses were there, but I don't know if players understand that this is the way it goes when you're at that next level. And if you want to play, you got to be better than the people around you, even though they're with you.
Well, and not even that. Like when you take those numbers, it's because that's what you need for a good team. If we took 16 guys, we wouldn't have the situations we need in training.
Absolutely.
So like once again, like what's your value? What do you bring? I know we're up front. I mean, we're up front. We have conversations when you offer guys spots. Like, here's kind of where you're at right now. Make sure this is like something you want to do. So as long as you're up front, you tell everybody what it is. You have meetings with the parents. You tell them what it is.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, like I can't tell you. I can't tell you the last time, and I got more of it when I was younger. I've had like an in-season parent conversation regarding a player and their role and their playing time. It's like I can't remember the last one.
It probably speaks towards your communication ability, right?
And it
making
doesn't mean
sure
they love me. Like
no, but it makes sure that no animosity's in the air.
Yeah, no, if I was in the car on the way home and like got to hear or sat in the bleachers with them or heard what they were thinking during the game, I'm well aware that there's like a, F that guy, whatever it is. I'm fully aware of that.
Yeah.
Like, but your job, like if everybody liked you, honestly.
You're not doing it
Yeah,
right.
like everybody liked you. Like there's no way.
You're not
There's
doing
no
it
way.
right.
You're just not.
I got a question.
But
to-
everybody
to
can't hate you
piggyback.
either,
Yeah,
which is the
correct,
hardest
correct,
part. Is a
correct.
little bit
I
of
got
a
a question
balance.
to piggyback on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
because there was times in this couple seasons that I've seen and been around that there's players that may not be happy with their role and then they start kind of slacking off in the group. How do you deal with those guys, especially in an elite environment where you told them their role, you've been straight up with them, and honestly you gave them the opportunity to be part of it, and then they start going against you.
Right.
How do you deal with that?
When you can, and it doesn't always happen, but you let them know. And I think young men and women really appreciate direct conversations. And I had a couple this year with guys where I'd reference exactly what you said, like, hey, remember when we talked about this? like here we are, and here's how you're approaching it. You know, like little things for me are like if somebody misses something, first of all, like generally speaking, it's not acceptable, you know. But I think our guys could tell you what will the consequence be. Like they know what it'll be. Like, oh well, this isn't happening. Do you know what I mean? Since he did that, but the question's like, would you be missing that if you were in the starting 11?
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, and the answer is like, no, you wouldn't be. So there's the problem. Do you know what I mean? Then now we're talking about, and I'm not talking baptisms, weddings,
Nope.
that kind of stuff. I'm talking whatever it might be. Would you be?
Yeah.
No
comment.
Yeah. No, but right.
Yeah.
Would you be? So if you're starting, and we have this game, would you be missing? And the answer is no. So those are important conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And you're right when you say that they really appreciate direct conversations, because teenagers a lot of time are spoken to in a patronizing way, or they're put in a box often.
Yeah.
And it's not often that somebody comes and pops the box and says, look, I'm going to sit here right with you and level with you human to human. And as coaches, we get a lot of opportunities to do that with our players.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it should be overly used, but it's situations where you can then get right into the heart and the head of the player and make a really impactful change in their life, but only through positive communications and then giving them guidelines, focuses, understanding of where they stand, being, like you said, clear in what your expectations and the communication needs to be. Because then they're not going to go, if they are continuing to go down that dark road, or you say that road where they are challenging you and they're not meeting the agenda, now they know the next step of this is the X, because we had this talk, you're going the wrong way, I've told you got to do these things, you've continue to go down the slope, so there's going to be a point where we have to.
And the good thing is you've never had that happen, right? And as a program, as the head of the program, you never had to cut anybody mid-season from.
No, I mean there are situations where, but I think
I got one.
I think letting somebody go sometimes is the easy thing to do as a coach.
Yes.
I think the challenge is to understand that
and
these
work
are
with them.
16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and this isn't gonna. I mean, if this is like the high point in their life of making good decisions, that's not a good sign. Like if you're like, man, I was really smart when I was 17, and now I'm 42. You know, like your job is to like work with them, to have consequences. You've seen some of the situations where like, somebody wants to go on a trip. Like I'm not going to say you're kicked off the team, but I can tell you where your seat on the bench is going to be when you get back. You know what I mean?
You just
so,
nailed
like,
it.
Wear a warm jacket and bring a seat cushion. Do you know what I'm saying?
Make sure you got the puffer.
Yeah, but
you'll be okay.
But you better be working your ass off still and training.
And you better be there.
Yeah.
Like there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it's one of those. I have a situation like this going on, and those are words I need to hear at the moment, because the way that you improve as a coach is working through those players that challenge you, and this is how you grow as the leader and the coach. And like you said, that is the easy way out. And one of the steps that I've been taking is because I'm in a situation where I am trying to raise that elite mindset and things, and you mentioned it really just recently previously, that when the players start self-policing towards the expectations, you know you're in the right place. And there's the start of the season where you're batting your head against the wall trying to get players to do as you say, to follow the guidelines. And then for me, I'm coming in a new program, and so that's why I'm having to make changes. Then halfway through the season, a player does something they maybe shouldn't have done, and instead of me having to address it in the group chat, his peers are now addressing it. They're saying, hey man, you think you're going to start, but you missed 2 trainings this week, and it's going to happen. I couldn't tell you what that meant for me as the coach, where to see in 6 to 8 weeks now, they want to set the expectation, and that if their peer, if their teammate, if their friend isn't meeting that, they're not going to leave it to me to express my frustration for the team. They have frustration for the team on their own. And that was huge.
And it's what they want. Like, it's what they want. It's what they respect. Like, I already had, in a short amount of time since our season's ended, I've had guys, like, that have transitioned back to club, and they've told me, like, our situation, we don't have the same structure and discipline. And, like, they want that. Like, that's what they need. It really is. And if you're not providing, and it doesn't mean it's about me. It's about them.
I would say it's us, right?
Yeah.
Because
The
then you
pro-
come
the whole
together.
program.
correct, but
The whole program.
it's about them though. Like that's what they need, and it's easy. I'll tell my own kids, I'll tell my players, like, I'm having this conversation with you because I love you and care about you. Yeah. It's easier for me to walk by you and just not have the conversation and to get in the car, but to like take the time to deal with the conflict that comes from it. That's because you care enough. You know, it's how it is like being a parent.
I want to circle back to the senior thing that we were talking about, and this, I may be wrong about this, but I feel like you as a coach actually give more opportunity to freshmen at the highest level. And there's been cases where you see freshmen that have just played a couple games for freshmen for JV, and then they get pulled up to varsity. Is that something maybe that I'm wrong, or do you think you value the people that are going to be in that organization program for more time than the people that are on their exit?
Well, yeah, no, it's a good question. I think so. You have a player for 4 years, 4 short seasons, November to March. So I think part of what you have to look at is that, so you always have to balance like the development of an individual player and a team. That's like it's a tough balance sometimes. So what can that player do over 4 years? Like you look at that for each player like differently. Like what can that player, like how much will this right now benefit this player like moving forward?
Yeah.
Like let's say you got a guy that might be you see as maybe like in a starting role the next year, but right now that's not their role. How do you get them ready for that? To just have them show up or to be around it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we all know too, you have to look at, it's the reason why we have calendar years for club. Like somebody, a junior versus a freshman, that junior has 2 years of life and the game and physical stuff. So if that junior isn't that much better, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Then
absolutely.
this freshman now
Has more value, more expected value than him.
correct,
Because he's got longer time to play for the
I mean,
group.
2 years, dude, like that's a long time when you're a teenager. 2 years. So if you're like right here with a freshman, that freshman's really
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
That's
Relative in
yeah.
this
And there's a reason why,
timeline.
like, and some of there's a reason why people take gap years in high school now. That's the big thing since COVID. you know.
Yeah,
go back,
there's such an
makes a
interesting
big
concept when the
difference.
gap year steps
I
in.
forget, I was doing this coaching thing with Austin McPhee. He's on the staff at Austin Villa, coaches for Ireland.
That's cool.
But he was saying, I forget what country it was, might have been Sweden or something like that, that they actually divide their years into the 6 months. So it's 2 because it makes a difference.
Yeah.
If you go with you go look at data, players born earlier in the year, go look at every single level.
Oh yeah.
Like those are the players that
And then the October, November, December kids
Huge.
get screwed.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Yeah, and the January kids, like it's the book The Tipping Point by
Yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell, like he gets into the whole hockey thing on how your defensemen are, those are the older guys from when they're younger. They're born earlier in the year. So they have the big, strong physical advantages. So they kind of gravitate towards being defensemen because they can just...
That was called The Tipping Point, that book?
Oh, no, Outliers.
Outliers?
Tipping Point's another book. And then you're in hockey.
That sounds really
Oh,
interesting.
yeah. You're attacking players. You're more skillful, wily guys that Jose would appreciate. Okay? That aren't big physical horses. So they have to figure things out because they don't have that physical advantage. They can't
Character out, boy.
True or false?
Yeah, he loves it.
So
He loves it.
wouldn't you appreciate?
100%.
So how can I like, how's my football IQ better? How can I be a little more slippery? So kind of a long explanation, but that's
what I was looking for.
That's brilliant.
A senior and a freshman, like if you're close, like then this guy's. Do you know what I mean?
So then it's true. So then you do value that a lot more than
you always
you do value that instead of the people, the normal programs would be like, oh, he's a senior, so we got to give it to him his last year.
Just for the, I don't know,
It's not even
a player
about
younger,
the player. It's about the betterment of the program.
Correct.
Because you're gonna have him for those 4 years.
Trajectory like matters. If you were to invest in and you invest in all the players, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But if you were to like invest in something, you have to look at that.
And a lot of time that freshman has a very positive, aggressive, passionate, driven mentality. And so they're in that environment and you know what you're going to get. They're locked in.
Yeah.
And that junior or senior You don't know
Maybe-
that
maybe
every
checked
time.
out already.
You don't know
Well,
that every time.
so-
Some of
so
them
you're
are,
looking at-
some of them aren't.
Yeah, you're looking at what that junior or senior is currently giving you, and then you're looking at what that freshman could give you as a junior and a senior.
Yeah.
'Cause
And
that's, 'cause
even
that's where you're.
even breaking it down more, like once that first semester of senior year hits, that senioritis comes in the second semester, where that's the most important part of the year.
Yeah.
So they may be checked out of school. They may be like their brain is already checking out of, oh, you know what, it's time for college now.
Yeah.
Do you
Like-
think we have that going on in soccer? Like when the time
I think
of
it
the
just
year,
I think
no,
it just carries over.
different thought. The time of the year that you're born has an effect on what position you end up playing based upon
It-
your physical statures.
I would say your physical makeup does. Like think about how many players do you see at a young age that fast, strong. So what will a lot of coaches do? Let's kick it over the top to them and have them dig it out and go. And that's great. That's going to get you results.
No.
But your job as a coach is how am I going to prepare this player
Yeah.
for when these other guys catch up? Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Because they're just
That-
I
that's-
played
that's
center
his.
back until
They're-
I was 14,
yeah,
and then
you're
everybody
gonna-
else grew.
Yep.
And I was.
And now you're like, wait, but I've just been running by everybody and they just hoof balls over the top. But now I have to be able to combine and play and
That is one of my
you know,
things I address a lot. I do address this quite often in the sense that it's better that you're developing those things for the future rather than focusing on the here and now.
Yeah.
And I think that potential growth and then that future longevity work is going to pay dividends
Yeah.
in the next coming years. But I'm
Yeah.
very, very principled in my sense of coaching when it comes to that, I think. A little too far, JC says sometimes.
That's the
But-
Cruyff in him,
Yeah.
and not the other part. That's Cruyff.
It's not a bad thing though. I know who I am. I know what I'm looking for and I want. And in
Yeah.
particular with that situation, I'm very principled about it. And
Yeah.
it is what it is. But I find it super interesting to find that physical attributes do have a influence on what position you may find yourself on the
Right,
field.
100%.
Find it even more interesting that maybe the time of the year that you could be born could
100%.
apply itself to those physical attributes
Yep.
within.
And that's why I've divided it up into the 6 months. Makes a lot of sense at the younger age. Once you're 18,
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah.
Now you're
Most people are already
correct.
developed
or
at
even,
that point.
even maybe before then. But yeah,
I
so
constantly-
that's the freshman thing, man. Like or sophomore or whatever, And at the end of the day, like college, high school and college, is built for juniors and seniors.
Yeah.
Most coaches at a college program would love for every freshman to redshirt. That's what most coaches would want,
Yeah.
unless you're going to be that instant impact guy, and there aren't many of those guys.
No, we had like 10 freshmen my
Yeah.
first year.
Yeah,
2 of us made the squad.
there you go. And
The other 8 didn't even get a jersey.
right, but let's say you put a guy on the squad and he doesn't play, you've wasted a year.
Yeah.
So now you get him to train, you get him to play spring ball, and then now that senior is a year older. Now your team is better because at the end of the day, any team like you're not going to typically have a team full of superstars. You need to have a team full of guys that buy in, solid, and then you might have some special players. And then everybody buying in and solid, that's just as special as the special player.
Oh, yeah.
And if he didn't play so much, he probably took a spot from somebody who could have made an impact.
Right,
And that's another factor that you kind of put in that mix. And
Yep.
it's like, maybe it was better he redshirted and trained.
Yep.
And then maybe he has a 5th year. In that 5th year, he's probably going to be
A
a
big
spitfire.
impact.
Like he's
Big
going to be
impact.
doing a lot of damage
Yep.
in that environment. We're talking about players that have physical attributes in youth, when they're younger, and coaches start to, I'm going to say, take advantage of those physical attributes. They lose, like you mentioned, the sense of the development of the understanding of the game and all of the other areas of the game that are necessary to develop to become a full, well-rounded player. And often I take players and put them in different positions so they're forced to behave in different ways and
See the
see
game
different
differently.
actions, and they hate it. But as long as you're giving them an understanding of why they're there and what they're there to work on,
Yeah.
they buy in. And this is one of those things where I am totally okay to say this. People find it cringeworthy, but it's 100% okay to lose if I know that I gave a player a tool for the future. That's all good with me,
But
man.
especially at the young ages.
Especially.
What's that?
Well,
That's
that's my pet peeve is when you go to put a player in a position, they go, oh, I don't play there.
Yeah.
I go, yeah, but you play right behind the one that plays there, or you play against that position. Like if I'm a right back and I'm playing against the 11, and I go tell my right back to play the 11, they should have some awareness. Like, okay, I'm gonna do.
Who did that? Anthony got pissed off at Ten Hag
do you know
the
what I'm
other
saying?
week about
Oh, I
this.
know.
He was so upset.
That was
And it was
disgusting
like, bro,
to see.
go to left back and do the job
Yeah.
because you're a footballer.
Right. That's a perfect point at the professional. But even at the younger level, like oh, I don't play there. Okay, well, go sit back down. And,
Yeah. The question
And
I
we'll
asked was
find
like, oh
somebody
wait,
who
so you
does.
don't want to play?
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling me?
But not even that. So you're not seeing the game that go like, if you tell me to play keeper, I'll hop in training sometimes and just show the guys like I'm not going to give up a goal, but it's because no one's going to get a shot off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm going to have my guys dialed in up enough. If you shoot, you're going to score.
I do this too.
But if they don't shoot, they can't score on me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have and even goalkeepers, for example, like it drives me nuts at the younger ages when you take a kid and just shove them in goal. Like
Can't happen.
So bad for their development.
Pigeonholing them inside of there.
Like too early, and
It's terrible.
and even if they are, you're like my 13 team right now, I have a full-time goalkeeper, but she's on the field and in training. Yeah. She's
You got to develop it.
100%.
Especially in the new game now where goalkeepers are expected to play with the ball and find a teammate and whatnot.
Yeah.
They don't need to shoot, right?
No,
they need to be able to receive and pass.
You're not diving 100 times in the game to get a
No.
ball out of the upper V, but you might take a touch away from pressure and settle a ball. And
I've gone the
You know what I
complete opposite approach, whereas I have 6, 7, and 8-year-olds this
Yeah.
season, and there is nobody that's going to be playing goalkeeper.
Yeah.
We have a goalkeeper jersey for all 4 teams, one for each team, and we will rotate that
you play
position.
for 15 minutes, and then the next one plays. And
because nobody is anything as far as positions go at that age.
No.
Nobody is completely developed as a footballer at that age.
Yeah.
And nobody should be staying in one place at that age.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons, like you said, you play against certain positions, you find yourself in different positions. When you're in the game, you might even have to take that role during the game because somebody else went forward.
Injured
and
or
now
whatever.
you had to cover back and you're in a role and now you need to know what do I do in this moment.
That's total football, buddy.
Yeah.
Your position
This
is
is the
just
Yo
your-
thing.
Oh, yeah.
The Johan Cruyff thing.
Your position that's just your starting point.
Yeah.
That's
And then
just where you are on the whiteboard.
who knows where you end up.
The game goes. Attackers defend.
Here goes
defenders
your
attack.
fullback, and
Yeah.
you're going to end up having to
Oh,
pinch.
man,
Your
it's
left
beautiful.
winger goes.
Shouldn't
And
have Ted Lasso episode. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's one of those things.
Dress
It's
it
like,
up, man.
so I definitely push players, like you were just saying. You got to address all the things. And with the parents and players, I tell them in roles and positioning, we're going to experience new things all the time. And if it leads to a loss in result, fine, because it led to also your son learning the game.
And that's something that's a Portuguese philosophy. Like, me, I'm not a football player, but I like to take what's best from a bunch of different footballing nations that definitely have it better than us. And in their academy systems, even at the older ages, they make sure that players play at least 3 positions because they need to be astute.
Starting role, primary, secondary, and alternate.
They just need to know.
Roles.
They need to know what happens here, what happens there, the strengths, weaknesses of each position, so that they can actually exploit that in the game. And one
You gotta stop
question.
saying you're not a player, by the way.
I'm not.
You played.
I'm not. No, I don't. And he actually cut me. So that means that I'm not a player.
You had self-awareness.
Yeah, I was a manager instead of a player.
No,
Good man.
That was great.
Actually, a lot of people have said that about him at that time, that he had self-awareness, what he was.
No, and since we're talking about the youth players and their development, one of the questions that I've been asking in the podcast that is probably one of my favorite questions now to ask people is, what is the most important skill that youth players need to develop now? If you had to choose one thing that they had to develop, what would it be?
Skill or attribute?
You can go. You
yeah,
could take
so-
it in any way.
So two,
Since you asked that question, you could say
yeah,
both.
yeah. So attribute, I would say passion for the game. I think it's the most important thing, and that what your and parents that let your passion for the game dictate your path.
Not the parents. The
yeah,
players.
Yes, the players. So like if you tell me your child loves soccer, then they're doing some of the things I told you I did growing up. That doesn't mean I was great at soccer, but I love soccer. So I'd be out kicking the ball against the curb and trapping it and doing it again, like almost like, it was like hypnotizing, or juggling. Like if your players with the ball, if they're wanting to watch it on TV, that's a huge attribute that I think is super important. Like I'll ask my younger players all the time, who's your favorite player? And the obvious would be like Alex Morgan or
Messi, whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so you play the 6. who is the best 6 in the world that you try to like emulate your game after, and then the conversation dies.
Huh? Wait, 6?
9.5 times out of 10.
Well, I watch soccer, but I don't watch a position.
Right,
Or I don't
right.
like watching soccer.
Right.
Or, well, I can't last the 90 minutes when I'm turning it on. There's a lot of ways that conversation
so those are
dies.
the players that at the end of the day, those are gonna be the best players, is the ones that are passionate. You know, the skill, if we're talking like skill, I would say confidence on the ball.
So like a either being good at receiving or being good at dribbling,
being okay with a little bit of pressure,
Uh-huh.
being okay to shield somebody, and all I was talking training about, like looking and seeing.
Yeah.
Players that can look and see, and then try to execute a decision, even if it was the wrong decision, but that can say like, oh well, I saw Jose get in behind 2 players, so I tried to play it in between the 2. Okay, that's important. That means you looked at something, you saw it, and you tried to execute a decision. But if the ball just comes in and it goes out, and hey, what were you thinking? Like,
I didn't want the ball on my feet.
I think
Right.
it's a really
So-
top thing you just mentioned. You mentioned the differentiation between looking and seeing, which the differentiation between that is understanding.
oh yeah,
And
Yep.
when one of the greatest mentors I had at Barca, his name was Juan Mena, was technical director for La Masia, all over actually the world with Barca academies. And he would constantly come up to me during training. He says, "So what do you see?" And I go, well, I'm looking here and I'm looking there. And he goes, no, Jens, what do you see? And how are you going to transfer that information to the players? What do they see? Are they looking enough? Okay, what are they looking for? Go explain it to them. And I'm like, okay. And so we would constantly have in-depth talks about what it is that we're looking for, what we're trying to see, and then how do we get the players to see it. Not only that, how do we get them to look more often, too? So that when we explain to them and get them to understand what they're looking for, they see it faster, and they can look faster and more often, and now their game comprehension, cognitive ability to make decisions at speed goes up. And these are one of those things that he would watch me coaching a session. Mind you, I'm already like 5 years into coaching now, so I have this sense of like, I'm good at this. I'm at Barca now, so I have that backing. I feel I'm good at this. And he'd stand next to me and he goes, so where are you looking? Why are you looking there? And I would be obviously looking at what we call the intervention space, which is the space right where the ball is and everyone around it. We call the medial space the mutual help. We call the big space the coordinative. And he goes, well, take your eyes off the intervention space and put your eyes on the coordinative. It's way more important that you see all the movement that the other 20 players off the ball are doing than it is you see the 3 or 4 interacting with it in the area. Now, I know that that's the most impactful because what happens there dictates what happens next. But if you can understand what's going on in the coordinative space, you're going to, again, jump into those players and give them ideas, options, understanding. And this was like he would grab my head sometimes when I'm coaching a session and he would literally just go, "Eh," and like turn my neck. And he'd be like, look that way. And the ball's here, right? And I'm like, that's a foreign thing for some coaches as they're starting to look away from where everything's happening to gain a better understanding of what's going on around everyone. And then when you can bring that picture together, the intervention space and the coordinative, and slam it, the boys have this understanding, this light switch, a cognitive growth. They go, oh, I get what I was trying to do in there. But the bigger picture was I should have been looking or trying to find, and he should have been moving. And now they're starting to see things more, not just look.
That was one of the things that you like to say, like one of your phrases that I use a lot now is play the furthest man.
Yeah.
The furthest man is the one that's always going to have the most time.
Not play the furthest man, look far first. Doesn't mean that you have to play him, but the second that you look far first, it puts the opponent in a position to have to make a decision to either step or drop. It doesn't mean anything's happened yet. But the act of looking far first puts them in a decision. Decisions buy time. And so this is where it's like, okay, I don't have to play far every time first, but I have to look far every time first.
Well, that's where you should be looking to play. I mean, the ideal build-up in a game would be your keeper playing your 9
and your 9
behind
score
the back line for a goal.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
that would, but you know,
You need Allison and Solomon
channel
to do
play,
that.
baby.
I think there's less of it now, but for such a long time, people love to yell like, oh, possess, and that would like drive me nuts.
It's me.
No,
We'll make 50 passes. We'll go backwards 5 times.
No, but just
we
possess.
didn't need to.
No, possess for sure. But like the purpose is not to possess.
Right.
The purpose is to attack and score. So like I just think I think references matter.
You nailed it.
Do you know what I mean?
You nailed it.
Like,
I would say purpose with your possession.
Correct.
You have to have purpose.
Or possess, in order to attack. Every ball you look to play, you should be trying to beat somebody.
And
you
that's
should, but it doesn't mean you can do that on every ball.
No. And I would jump down players' throats when they would make a decision in a certain moment that I would stop it, put it back right where it was. I say, look at this decision again, and say, we need to have purpose with our possession. So look at this again, and which one is a better advantage? And now that everything's stopped, it's clear. It's like a 2 + 2 math test, like there's more players there. Yeah, but in the run of play, you had too much going on. You didn't think about it, and you made a quick decision.
Yeah.
Stop it. Look around. It's clear. Possession isn't just so we can have the ball and run around, although it's more fun to have the ball when you're playing the game.
It's easier.
If you're not going to go forward with your possession in certain moments that it shows itself, you're not playing the game right.
Oh, and you're going to make a mistake in the back line, and then you get really screwed.
Route
because
one
then you get
is keeper to striker, striker to goal. And if you could do that every time, you should.
Yeah, and you're probably playing the wrong teams.
Yeah. but I'm the guy you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Was I bite into possession way more than I need to. I talk about it. Focus on all of my particular coordinative actions the players need to develop on receiving and passing. A lot of the conversation is about where you are and when, what position you're taking and why. And it can be, players call it cookie cutter in a sense. But I'm not taking freedoms away from dribbling, and I'm just telling you when and where it's best.
Yeah.
And then you can choose to do what you want, and I'll give you constructive criticism after you decide. But I could be defined as that Johan Cruyff or Pep Guardiola, total football sense, but I'm not letting players dribble out of position willy-nilly and having another one cover. It's more positional possession than total football.
No, it's tactics. Tactics are, tactics lead to better communication.
Yeah, and he makes not fun of me, but he constantly reminds me that you are almost overly committed to that style of football to a detriment in certain situations. But there's a lot of growth and development that could be had in others.
Yeah.
This is why I choose to be this way as a teacher. I define it, right? Because there's a lot more lessons that I can pull out of my brain from that way of thinking than I can success on Route 1 teaching right through the
Well,
chain.
it's because there's no real teaching in Route 1 except there's only 2 people interacting. Whereas if you're doing positional possession, then that's a whole team interacting with the play, which I agree.
And
I
he
think
said
that's
his
better.
favorite trait was confidence on the ball. In any one-on-one, if you're confident on the ball, you got that. It's yours. That's me as a winger going at that fullback, and every time I'm looking at him like, you're mine.
Yeah.
I got the ball. You're on your heels. I'm on my toes. You're mine.
Yeah.
And this is that feeling, right, that the ball could give you if you've spent enough time with it. And it's one of those really, really, really
That was one of
loving
the
things.
strengths of this season, I feel like, where we had a lot of players that were comfortable with the ball. And, you knew that, if they have the ball, then that's danger in that moment.
Yep.
And, I feel like a lot of our success came from those moments where little individual to then find someone and then that someone bury it.
I think it's important, too, you mentioned that players need to be able to know when to shield the ball instead of taking the risk. Because knowing when to shield instead of taking the risk to turn under pressure or make a risky pass based on the situation is usually a safer play, because when you shield the ball and you take a stop, all the parts around you start to move and options can recreate themselves. You can buy yourself time. Instead, a lot of players like to take the riskier route, turn into opponent, take the space, go here.
Go for the mag.
And I don't think they understand the worth, how great it can be just to learn how to protect the ball when you're out of options. Because just a few seconds is needed before another option can open up.
Yep.
And if your teammates don't do that for you, something's missing, and you did the right thing. So you got to kind of look at it in the individual basis if you're the player and say, well, when do I learn when to shield when I'm out of options, and why am I doing that to find the next option? I don't think that players are we're not addressing that with players enough, because I see so many kids in this town turning into their pressure like they're messy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are way more beneficial advantages on the field in that moment that they're not seeing because they're taught to just, and that's where then I'm like, okay, shield, head up, look, pause, let's take a moment to decide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have your decision, especially with young kids.
Mm-hmm.
Let's play again.
Mm-hmm.
And then watch it go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and through those experiences, situations, repetitions,
Mm-hmm.
they're really developing an understanding of the
Mm-hmm.
game. But like confidence on the ball, everyone's gonna love you as a coach if you got that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, this guy is good. Give him it.
Yeah,
Give
it's
him it.
easy.
Wherever he is, give him it.
Yeah.
He's gonna do good. That's like that player you put in any player position,
Mm-hmm.
just to up that area of the field.
Mm-hmm.
The versatile guy. Unfortunately, I played that role at college for 2 years, and it's a hard role to play.
Mm-hmm.
It is. You have to be told to go do what the team needs. In every game, it's different. So you're 6 man marking their best 10. Now you're playing fullback because this guy, their winger, is just outstanding, and now you got to go play winger today, which is your favorite because we need offensive force. And today you're going to play center back, and we'll play 5 back. So you're going to be a 5th center back right in the middle that steps out. And a versatile player, in order to play that role, has to have an understanding of all the positions.
Mm-hmm.
One was why I teach players to play in different positions, maybe from my past experience as a player. And 2, you got to be willing to put the team above yourself. Every player should. Not every player does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of those things that the versatile king has to focus on, because they're like kind of like glue to all the parts,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to do the dirty work. But somebody has to.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a final question to wrap up the interview.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first time in our school history that we went to the Division I championship and won it.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel like knocking off that number 1 team in the state and now cementing Saints as the number 1 program in California?
No, for me, is just like incredible for the boys. Just watching like how much they enjoyed it. They soaked it in.
Oh yeah.
You saw like even just at CIF, we had like a couple guys like in tears.
Yeah.
Like that's the first time I'd seen that.
Really?
Yeah, usually get like tears after a loss. You get
You
get the awkward teenage tears. So you're like, it's all right, bud. Like, we're all good. Like, we're not going to win our last game every year. But yeah, no, like perspective-wise, I was telling my wife, like, it's cool. If this happens like in your first year coaching, maybe you don't quite get it.
I told you.
You know what I mean? But the fact that it's 20 years in, if you were to draw up like what's the best you could do in a season, it would be to win your preseason tournament, to win league, to win open, and to win the highest level.
The quadruple, no?
Yeah, but then you're like, oh crap, like we did all those things, and our guys like wanted each one of those things like at every level. Like they wanted to, beat Del Norte in the final of the tournament. They wanted to win league again. That was a big deal to them. They wanted to win, like after we won open, had guys crying on the field, like overcome and guys that somebody else might tell them, oh, but you've played for, you're going to be going to play in college, and you've played for the Loyal, and you've done all this, but like that's a reflection of how important it is to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's because it's important to us, and it's not all, like we've said, about just having fun. It's about, you don't get those moments without that. So pretty awesome. And then to do it for like a school in a community.
For yours? Not even that, for your school.
Yeah. So that's, there's a bigger than yourself type of thing. Like getting on the bus afterwards and you've got like 50 texts from people congratulating you. Like that's pretty humbling to be like other people care enough to like watch the game or know, or, hey, I was watching online or whatever. Like that's where you're like, it's not, it's about being part of something. And I think even in the game, like outside of the life lesson stuff in the game, like that's, college is more like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think it's something they don't get at club.
No.
And it's not, I'm not one of those guys that are, high school's a good class. I do both. I love both. But like that's a little more of the college.
Doing it with your brothers.
That's
like with the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And go through the struggle with.
And getting back to campus and having like teachers congratulating you and that kind of stuff. So
what emotion were you feeling when the final whistle blew?
Just proud. and excited for the guys. Like I think I'm not a guy to like try to get in the middle of all of it. I like to
Soak it in.
Yeah, just sit back and like watch them enjoy it. Like that's the biggest thing for me is like I want to see. I'd rather be a little bit back and like see. Like I want to see the guys enjoy
You can
it, 'cause
suck
that's
in all the joy.
Yeah, the satisfaction. I'm not looking for, can I get the trophy and kiss it and pose for pictures? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not like trying to place, hey, so Jose, can you have the Gatorade jug ready? And I don't.
Honestly, I wanted to do that.
Right. But you know me though, like I didn't bring a change of clothes.
No.
So hey, when they get me with the jug, we all scripted this. It's just, you want to sit back. You want to sit back and just watch guys enjoy it. And I felt like I got to do enough of that.
I wanted the freshmen to get the jug because, I mean, I wanted the seniors to soak it in, but they were like, Coach, Chief isn't going to put us in the roster next year if we do it. So I was like, fair point.
Only if it's Rafa.
I don't think there's anything more like wonderful, beautiful than that joy when that moment happens.
Yeah.
And honestly, it doesn't really matter the age. Even with younger teams in big tournaments, I've seen it. And in older teams at elite games, I've seen it. Mm-hmm. And there's this moment that, like you said, you've given these people like a lifelong memory of lasting joy.
They've given it to each other.
That's true. What I mean? Yeah. But I like to tell JC that you were a part of the they, in the sense that without you, and all of the micro decisions and major decisions you make through that season, when I'm sitting in that moment, it's not disbelief, it's amazement of the beauty of all of the things that all of us have to do for this moment to manifest itself. And like you said, watching the elation and all of the boys and how they respond to that joy is beautiful. There is no other way to describe it. And rather than go and lose myself in that joy, taking it all in is worth more for the future to me than losing myself in it. And then there's that moment you get the Gatorade dumped on you, and you naturally have to be brought back into the like, cold, man. Like, oh yeah, great. I get angry, like, get out of here, like. But there's nothing more beautiful than that to me, and what I say that one of the greatest parts about football is the human connections and relationships we build through it. That's one of the pinnacles for me, is watching them enjoy that.
Everyone asks about like a why do you do this? That for me is my reason why I like seeing not just the joy of the players, but all the joy of the people around them. Like when I see myself in the future, who knows, coaching Liverpool or whatnot.
Go on.
I see myself giving the joy not only to the team, but to the people around them that support it and actually give not just their life, but like their money. Like that's even more advanced. They give their time and their money for that, and they want to see it. So what can I give them? I can give them the emotion of ecstasy, of pure enjoyment, of laughter.
Well, and then seeing, like, in our case, it would just be like how proud the parents are.
Yeah.
Like
the time that they gave up.
My own son was on the team this year, so like that was special.
Wow, so you had a dual kind of situation as dad and coach.
No, we should have brought that up.
I wanted to play him at the 9 all year, but they wouldn't let me do it.
Yeah.
Son's a striker.
You know what?
He's a goal scorer, so they had to hold me back.
Hats off to you for keeping it all in, because if I was dad and coach in that moment, and I'm not dad, and I would, that's amazing feeling. It's got to be a lot going on.
There was an awesome photo at the end where Owen is jumping on him, and they have like a father-son moment, not just a player-coach moment. And someone actually got to capture that, and that must have been an awesome. You got to frame that photo.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that was an awesome one to see, especially that someone captured it, not just that it happened. You know.
It's a wonderful thing to give people, is that experience of not only the growth but the joy.
No, and I talk to the guys all the time about like the 20 years from now moments. Do you know what I mean? That's what those are about. The 20 years when they're sitting around having a Diet Coke and OB.
That's it.
You know, you're gonna have the 20 years from now.
And we'll be bragging about that moment.
They're gonna sit there and talk about it and have the enjoyment, and it's the people, it's the relationships. You know, so.
And that's the things I remember too of my successes in college when we won the NCAA was the elation. I hugged my dad immediately after. CSU Stanislaus.
Oh, nice.
D2 NCAA
Awesome,
with
man.
Dana Taylor was great mentor of mine there, and we had a lot of success in the 3 years I was there. In fact, the only real success the school has had since and before. So we were like the team that came into there, and they got a good program going on now, so I wish them all the best. But it was one of these things where when we won that thing, I couldn't explain the next 3 hours of my life. But I can tell you the feeling of that will never leave my soul.
Yeah.
It's marked on the being that I am.
Yeah.
Even the hug that I gave my dad, particularly after that game, was like something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
100%. And then you know, that's
and
why
his
you have
pride,
to,
his pride
Yeah.
for me.
Yep.
Was something I'd never forget either.
Well, and that's why you have to have that belief, like in what you're doing every day, because that's how you get those moments. Like if you don't have that belief, you don't get the moments.
You won't even get there.
And you have to see the value in every day, because you piece together, like that's how you get those moments. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, because that's how you get the 20 years down the road that give it meaning.
And you can piece together 20 years or whatever with like moments. And if you don't have that everyday belief in what you're doing, the moments don't happen.
Right. And you end up being more wayward.
A little off topic, but I've seen Blackburn Rovers. They started a organization for people that have dementia. And what's the other one that people lose their Alzheimer's, yeah. So they were doing it for fans that have dementia and Alzheimer's. And it was funny because this one daughter that her father has the dementia was saying that even though the father may not remember who the daughter is, whenever he goes to the ground and he goes to the stadium, he's instantly involved.
It triggers.
Exactly. And that's like way bigger than the game.
Yeah.
Like that's something that like is happening in his brain, but even then he can still remember like, oh, this is my team. This is where I would go every single weekend or every other weekend to go watch and support and fight with my team, and that's something bigger than the game, which is I mean one of the other reasons why I think we all love this game. Do you want people trying to find you or no?
Trying to find
on
me.
your socials?
We usually end the thing with our accounts so people can reach out to us, but we don't have to do that.
Yeah, I'm not a huge. And I do have Facebook. I still have a MySpace account.
The OG.
They can page me. I have a pager.
Yeah, so. I loved MySpace when it came out.
They can call me on my car phone.
No facts.
Oh man.
No, I'm a Facebook guy, and then I check out Instagram legends like Jose.
Yeah.
I follow more than
I can tell you that we were super thankful to have you on.
Yeah, no,
your insight and experience in the game, and even the longevity in your career in one place. All of those things are really
Steven Gerrard type
impactful stuff, and
I appreciate it.
As young coaches in our career, it actually really helps us get an understanding of what that looks like and how do we wrap our minds around these things, and what are we going to do in our futures?
It gets me fired up, having like a 22-year-old dude working with our thing, learning how to do things and being in a good spot and being passionate, and even you guys doing your podcast. That's all because you guys love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and these conversations between me and him, they happen 3 times a week.
I'm sure.
So we figured let's just put it on the camera. But like you said, this guy's angrily passionate about it. Completely passionate about it.
Oh, yeah.
And having that next to you on the sideline is empowering.
No.
Even though it takes a bit of corralling too.
That's
but it's so good. So good to have that energy.
Yeah, no, his cup is not boiled over at all.
Yeah, Yeah, and don't have to smack him over the head a few times for things that he said or done.
No.
But who hasn't done something like this as a coach?
Nope.
We all have.
For sure.
I haven't gotten my first red yet, so.
I got,
What?
That's something I got to be proud of.
Hey, good on. I would have expected you to have multiple by now.
No. I always tell my players, there's two yellow cards in the game for a reason. To get the first one. And then once you get the second one, hey, let's bring it down.
Yeah, you could do data. If you don't get a certain amount of yellow cards, it means the team's not working.
Yeah, you're going to be cut the next season.
And I don't think we ever said it, but this is Pitchside Prospects. This is episode number 25?
24, the Kobe episode.
24.
Shout out Kobe.
And
where can people find you?
You can find me at ZJ Kaizen or at Train Zone Sports, either on Instagram or YouTube. What about you?
Coach JCKM for the professional one, at JC Career M for the fun one. If you want to get to my personal life,
We call it personal, not fun.
it's a bit of both.
We're gonna work on your professionalism
No.
slang.
That's you, man. That's you.
Yeah, give it a few years, you'll need it.
And that was it.
Thank
That
you
was awesome.
again, Chief.
Appreciate it,
We
big man.
really
No,
appreciate
appreciate
having
you,
you on.
boss. Thanks for coming out here.
Thank you for
Yep.
having us out here. This
That
has
was
been
lovely. Yep,
wonderful.
I loved it, man.